Okay, we're holding here before Rosh HaShana. We're going to go into the mitzvah of Rosh HaShana, the one mitzvah of the day. The mitzvah is to blow the shofar. And we see that the pasuk brings that down. It's brought down in Parshas, you see on the top right-hand corner, Parshas Pinchas. When the Torah describes to us the mitzvah of blowing the shofar, it says, Uvachodesh Hashvi. It says in the 7th month, you should blow. Mikra kodesh yelachem kamlachas avodah lo yisasu. It says you shouldn't do any work. Yom Teruah yelachem. It says it should be a day of Teruah. A day of Teruah. Teruah is to blow. We say this in the Halukah, that the Halukah tells to lay Seruah. Seruah is the blow of the sound of the shofar. So the question is here, what is the mitzvah of shofar? If you want to dissect the mitzvah of shofar, what is the mitzvah? Is the mitzvah to blow the shofar, or is the mitzvah to hear the shofar? That's the question here. We have to get ready for Rosh HaShana. We have to know what is the mitzvah of the day.
Rabbi,
yes.
Sorry, can you just Trua?
Yeah.
Is that the sound? Is that the verb? What is Trua? Yom Trua.
Yeah. So Teruah
is it a specific sound or a generic sound?
It's a sound. It's a blow. It's the blow. The sound of the blowing.
So it's a sound.
Yeah.
So Yom Trua is the day of whatever that sound is.
The day of that sound. Right. Right. Sound. It's an interesting word. On the other hand, we find by Yovel, sometimes it says tekiah. Litkoa, tekoa is to blow. Right? If you look on Yovel, when we find the 50th Jubilee year, so it says that all the slaves will be freed and all the land goes back. There the pasuk says a different wording. And there it says, if you look on the bottom left-hand corner, it speaks all about the shofar. There it says they also blow the shofar on Yom Kippur of Yovel. And it's underlined there, V'havarta shofar trua. There it says, you shall make pass shofar trua. The shofar with that blast. So we'll have to dissect this a little bit. There it speaks about the shofar also, but here it just speaks about the blast, the blowing.
So we refer to those as specific notes, trua, as opposed.
Right, we refer to it as different notes, shvar, trua, tekiah. But in general, it's called a trua or a tekiah. Right? Interesting. Yeah. So interesting how you the verb or the noun. But the question is, what do we have to do on Rosh HaShana? Do we have to blow it, or do we have to listen, or both? So the Rambam, let's see number 2. The Rambam says in Hilchos Shofar, the first halacha, it says mitzvah saseh shel Torah. It's a mitzvah saseh. It's a positive commandment from the Torah. Lishmoya truas hashofar. The mitzvah saseh is lishmoya, to hear it, to hear the blowing of the shofar. Rosh HaShana, on Rosh HaShana, Shenemar, and he brings this verse. The verse says from Parshas Pinchas, Shenemar Yom Teruah Yelachem. It says it will be a day of blowing. It will be for you. It will be for you that every person has this mitzvah. And then he continues, the shofar that we blow, Bein Rosh HaShana, Bein B'Yovel, the same shofar that we blow, whether it's on Rosh HaShana or on Yovel, when we also blow for the emancipation of the slaves and the land returns to the owners. So that's also the same shofar, so made out of keren, the horn of a keves, of a lamb or a sheep, which is kafuf, which is bent, and this signifies the bending of our hearts. So that's the first idea. So what do we see from the Rambam? The Rambam, what does he hold? The mitzvah is Lishmoa, to listen. You should listen and hear the sound of the shofar. And if you look in the Torah, right underneath number 3, the Torah also brings down ve-chatima sheyitkam, and before we're going to blow, yivarech, we make a blessing, lishmoya kol shofar. Right? You listen to the bracha. The bracha is asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvaysav. He has commanded us with his mitzvos, v'tivanu lishmoya kol shofar, to hear the kol shofar. So here the Torah, he's paskening, he's ruling like the Rambam, that the actual mitzvah is to listen. Who is he coming to? He brings down, the lav bitkiya talya milsa. The Torah says, specifically, it's not dependent on the blowing. No, that's not the mitzvah. Ela b'shmiya, only to listen. Now, he's obviously coming to exclude a certain authority which held differently, and that authority is on number 4. It's one of the earlier Gaonim, who was before even the times of the Rishonim. He was like a Gaon, the Shiltus Rabbi Choi Gaon. And in that She'ilta is the name of that Sefer, he writes, the Mechayavinon, we are obligated, the Beis Yisrael, all of the Jews, Limitka. Here he says very clearly the obligation is to blow. And he says what the bracha is. U'mevarech Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam. That's the Rosh HaShana. That's what those words stand for. Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvaysav v'tzivanu litkoya b'shofar. Here we have a new text of a blessing. The blessing is litkoya, to blow the shofar. And if you look, the Rabbeinu Tam, he is brought down, and he also rules like that. And the Rosh, who's the son of the Torah, the Rosh brings down this Rabbeinu Tam, he made new headways when he said that you have to make the actual blessing and you have to do the blowing.
But like Klal Yisrael is like one, so when Hashem, if we have to blow it, really, are we not, as a group, we're blowing the shofar? Like, as a kihila, the shofar is blowing, but we are blowing. Our kihila is blowing the shofar.
And it's the obligation.
And even though one person does it, on an individual basis.
It's called that what? How many people blew it? Max, how many people would you call blow it if one person blew it for the congregation?
But the congregation blew it, though.
The congregation heard it.
Yeah, but they...
The mitzvah was performed by the congregation.
Can you have in mind the congregation for blowing?
Well, so if the mitzvah is to blow it, then you can't really have everyone in mind. Everyone would have to blow it. If the mitzvah is to blow it, everyone has to get out the shofar.
If I go to Aish to hear the shofar, I don't say I'm going to hear Irving blow the shofar. I'm going to Aish to hear the shofar.
To hear the shofar. If you want to hear, if the mitzvah is to hear it, then you're right. You can have one person blow it, and everyone could hear it, and that will be called everyone heard the shofar, without a doubt.
Everybody can blow.
And everyone could blow. But does everyone blow? According to this Rabbeinu Tam, in number 4, everyone has to blow. Right? You have to get out your shofar and start practicing, according to Rabbeinu.
What about hearing is like doing?
So now the question is, hearing is, we say Shofar Ka'ona, in certain instances, the hearing is like saying, like answering. The question is, Irving wants to know, how do you get, hold on, remember your questions for 1 second, because Irving has a good question here. Shofar Ka'ona, sometimes we say it is like we answered, right? If a person is in the middle of davening Shemona Esrei and he gets up to the middle of Shomea Tefillah, he's in the middle and the chazan starts. So he has to hear Kedusha. Now he can't answer because he's in the middle of Shema Kolenu. So what should he do? He should stop and listen. And Shomea, when he listens, it's Ka'ona, it's like he's actually answering. That's the idea that's brought down. Now that's brought down in reference to davening. Would you say this also in reference to the shofar?
When we get called to the Torah and people say the bracha, isn't that also a proxy?
Is that, well, he's not my shliach, maybe he's not, maybe he got the aliyah, that's his aliyah, he made the blessing on the Torah, he has the obligation to read along.
Isn't it as though he's read it?
Who's read it? Oh,
the person.
That fellow. So it's an interesting thing that he also is supposed to read along. You should try to read with the Bal Koreh, but it could be that would be Shomer Ka'ena. That would also be that it's like you're reading, but there it has words. Yes.
In Megillat Esther in Purim, we are saying לקרוא את המגילה, but not everybody have Megillat Klaf. But we are Yotzei B'Chova with the קריאת המגילה of the Bal Koreh.
Yeah, it's
so
good.
this is the same thing. He likes shofar. And the shofar, one is tokea for everyone.
Now the question is by Kriyas Megillah. Kriyas Megillah we say L'Kriyas HaMegillah. The mitzvah is to read the Megillah. So we have to read the Megillah because we need to actually have the parchment of the Megillah. So how does everyone get the mitzvah of reading the Megillah? You have to know all the trup there. It's a very long trup to remember. So there we do use Shomer Ka'ona. We do use this term where if you listen, it's like you're saying. As you listen to every word, it's like you're actually saying it.
That's like
but the intention of a shofar is to communicate to a large number of people. It's not like it's something that should be, you don't blow a shofar to tell somebody on the next hillside or to communicate something to one person. You do it to a community. The nature of it is a group thing.
Right. Therefore, so what do you say from there?
So what I'm saying is, by its nature, it's you're doing it for the community. Somebody gets appointed to blow the shofar. It's not like everybody takes it upon themselves to blow the shofar. The community appoints a representative.
Oh, right. Now, but it could be that the mitzvah is only to listen. It doesn't mean that the mitzvah is to blow.
Right.
It could be the mitzvah is to listen. And everyone gets their mitzvah of listening because of the appointed one who blows. Yes.
But we can also look at this in the same way as we do for brachas. When somebody listens to your bracha and he's a yotzei bracha,
That's what I was-
like as if you make a kiddush. Not everybody at the table is making the kiddush.
What's that called? That's called Shomea Ke'oina. When you listen, Kiddush, right? Everyone, we say things about Kiddush. When we go to the Friday night, the meal, someone makes Kiddush there. There's a mitzvah from the Torah to make Kiddush Friday night. So how does everyone get that mitzvah? Everyone's just listening. There's only one person who's making Kiddush. So how do you get the mitzvah of Kiddush if you're just sitting in the crowd? The answer is Shomea Ke'oina. If you listen and you have in mind, it's like I'm saying those words. Remember that question? Hold on 1 second. It's like you actually said it. That's Shomea Ke'oina. So therefore, that's how we get Kiddush. That's how we get Kriyas Megillah, saying the Megillah, and that's how we get.
Yeah, Shofar.
But
And also,
do you want to stretch? The question is, could you say Shomea Ke'oina even to a sound? Even to a sound? Ke'oina means like you answered. So we know that it works by prayers. Does it also work for a shofar, for making a sound out of your mouth? Shomea, that could be a good question to think about. It could be. I'm just putting it up on the floor, something interesting to think about. So you want to just keep alive the second side. It could be we're listening to the one who's blowing, and it's like we're blowing. It could be if you would stretch Shomea Ke'oina to work also for blowing the shofar. It's like I blew. Shomea Ketoka. Maybe. Could be. So we'll bear that in mind. And that would be by Miguel also. When we listen, we're getting at Shomea Ke'oina. Although he is doing, it has to be a kriya, it has to be a reading out of a Megillah. So he's doing the reading out of the Megillah, and I get it, Shomea Ke'oina, I get the reading from him, and it goes to me, Shomea Ke'oina.
You said that Rosh Pasak like Rabbeinu Tam.
No, now the Rosh brings the Rabbeinu Tam, he brings it, and then he argues vehemently, and he says, there's no such a thing. And we're going to bring down a few of his questions. He has a big question. The Rambam also asked this question on him. The Rambam, he himself ruled that you have to listen. The mitzvah is to listen. Yes, what?
Well, I was just going to, my point was just that one is a physical thing. You're actually doing the blowing, just like someone who's lighting candles for Shabbos. It's also a mitzvah, right? So you're actually doing an action. Whereas in terms of brachas or listening to Megillah,
there the thing is to hear the thing. You're doing two actions actually, because otherwise you wouldn't be fulfilling the mitzvah of listening at the same time as you blew. If you blew, you.
But if the mitzvah is to blow, is it also to listen? In other words, that's my point.
So maybe it's both. So now try to bring up a new question. Maybe it's both.
So
maybe it's to blow and listen.
Blows
there you go. The first nafkamina would be, let's say a deaf person blows the shofar. A deaf person, would he be biyotze? Would he get the mitzvah if he's deaf?
According to Rabbeinu Tam, he would.
According to Rabbeinu Tam, he'd be biyotze because he blew. He blew. They have to have someone signal to him, you did it good.
But
you
also consider that you actually feel the shofar as well. I don't know if everybody else does, but you feel it. You don't just hear it, you feel it.
But there's no mitzvah feeling. There's only two sides to this question here.
But he would know
listening or saying or blowing. There's no mitzvah feeling.
But for a deaf person, feeling would be the equivalent of hearing, and they can make people.
But the point
you can't be obligated for something you're not able to do.
Now there is a separate problem, which is asking an excellent point. How the Mishnah says very clearly that a deaf person and someone who's a small minor, he cannot blow the shofar, which is a big, big question. Very, very beautiful question on the side of this. Right, if you look on the left side, number 11, I'll just show you that you were just machav into the Mishnah that asked in this question. The Mishnah number 11 asked this question. Beautiful. A cheresh, someone who's a deaf mute or a shaita, a fool or a katan or a minor, they can't blow for everyone. So this would be a big question on Rabbeinu Tam.
Yeah.
Because according to Rabbeinu Tam, why can't they blow? They know how to blow. They're part of the blowing crew. So why should they be excluded? That's a great question on Rabbeinu Tam.
But what the rest of it says is also, it's kol she'eno mechayev b'davar. Anyone
who's not obligated in a mitzvah cannot help everyone else fulfill the obligation. So why is he not obligated? Why is a cheresh, a deaf mute? He can't.
Because he can't hear it.
Oh, but according to Rabbeinu Tam, all you have to do is blow it.
The mitzvah is trua.
To do what? With the trua?
Hear.
To hear. Oh, so that's the proof. That's the proof. That's the proof. That's beautiful. That's the proof to the Rambam that the mitzvah is only to hear it. Because if the mitzvah would be to blow it, why is he excluded? According to Rabbeinu Tam, number 4, mitzvah is only to blow it. So a cheresh, someone who's a deaf person, he should be able to blow it. So therefore we have a proof from this Mishnah in Rosh HaShana that the mitzvah is to hear it. And this is a proof for the Rambam.
Rabbeinu Tam can answer that, of course, the obligation is to titkoa. But if you don't hear, it's like a machine. You cannot give a machine to blow the shofar to say, yes, tkiat shofar. You cannot say it. It's like there is nothing, it's meaningless. You have to do some, you have also to hear the tkiat shofar. So you cannot separate lishmoa from litkoa. So what you need to do is what is the main thing. So Rabbeinu Tam said litkoa. So if he is a deaf and he cannot hear, so you have to say that the point is litkoa, but also we need to hear it.
That's a chiddush. He's saying a new idea. He was saying
If somebody calls
say that the tekiya includes the hearing. So you'd have to know if the hearing is part of the mitzvah. That's a thing we have to think about it. Okay, so this is the two sides, and we have now we have a big nafkamina. 1 second, let me just speak out what we have now. We have a one nafkamina, one difference of opinion it would come out by a deaf person. Would he be able to get the mitzvah? According to the Rambam, he should. According to the Rambam, he will not because he can't hear. According to Rabbeinu Tam, he will because at least he could blow. And we had the other case. Is that right? That was the first nafkamina so far. Right. Yes.
Now, what is the case if a pious Jew is in a hospital on Rosh HaShana and he's in a room with a Gentile? What happens then?
Well, he could blow. You should blow it. Don't wake up your neighbor there.
You have to wake him up.
Okay, so do it by day. Anyway, you can only do it Yom Trua. You can only do it by day. So blow it loud and clear.
Somebody comes and blows for him.
Or someone else can blow for him. Right. Yes.
Has to be a Jew then.
Right. That has to be a Jew. Right. It has to be someone who's obligated. Yes.
It's another nafkamina would be someone who wasn't physically capable of blowing it.
And someone, right. So Max here asked a beautiful nafkamina on the other side. What will be if someone doesn't know how to blow? And Max is mechavan to the Rambam. The Rambam, not this, the same Rambam, but when he wrote back, someone asked him a question. They asked him, what blessing should we make when we blow the shofar? So the Rambam answered, right, and you could guess what the Rambam's answer was because he will keep with his view that we just cited here. He said you should say, Lishmoa kol shofar, and he said, this view of Rabbeinu Tam, he says he thinks it's not right, and he says, how could it be? That means everyone in the whole congregation has to blow, right? Imagine you have to pass the shofar out to everyone. Technical problem. Let's say you get to someone who just can't get out the tekiya. The
hygiene issue as well.
Therefore, the Rambam himself, when he wrote back in this responsa, he clearly stated that this is a very big question on. Would it be a question? He said that we see that we don't have to blow. Not everyone has to blow. That was the first question that the Rambam himself asked. That it would be a little bit problematic. Everyone has to blow. Although, if that would be the mitzvah, that's what it would be. So that's a different nafkamina. So we have a bunch of different nafkaminas from all sides of the coin between the Rambam and the Rabbeinu Tam.
Can I just have a question on that? What does it mean not to be able to? I mean, does it mean your lips are physically sealed, or you just can't get really nice sounds out? Because the obligation to write a Torah yourself.
There is an obligation to write a Torah yourself. Or to, if you can't write it,
Be involved in the mitzvah.
At least to buy a Torah. Or, right, but it has to include an action, yes. You have to at least buy it.
Do you pay someone to blow for you? Like how do you...
No, but you have to blow it. If the mitzvah is to blow, you'd have to blow it. There will be no way out. It's a chachma. It's not a simple thing. You have to practice and learn how to do it.
Right, so what I'm suggesting is it has to be some physical incapability. Your lips are sealed or something. There's no way you could... Not just, I don't know how.
Right, he would have to learn how if he could. Said the Rambam, everyone would have to learn. It would be a little bit difficult. Yes.
The point is, though, like everything that we do in Judaism is that one person does it. So much of it, anyway, is that one person does it for everyone else. And that we're all yotze. I mean, that's so much of what we do. I mean, for instance, Shliach Tzibur.
By davening, you have sometimes that if you have a good chazan, you have someone with a good voice. So we ask him to get up there, then he will daven. But what he's doing there, he's repeating the Shmona Esrei. I'm also davening my own Shmona Esrei.
But isn't he repeating it in case we're all obligated to say it, right?
Right.
Just like Rabbeinu Tam says, we're all obligated to blow.
Right.
But not everybody can say it. say.
So
Or
for
at a
someone who
certain
can't
time,
say it, right, he
so
would be
the shliach
helping.
tzibur is the shliach for the
Right,
tzibur,
right.
right? So the point being that in that case, he does it for the person who maybe can't, right?
Right.
This seems to be, a common thread or a common.
But you have to know, over there, you have the rule that when I hear it, it's like I said it. The question is, could you use that rule by blowing? If I hear it, it's like I blew. That's my question. Yes?
What if a person can't blow? They don't have the
So he might have a problem. He might be stuck. He might be stuck. Let's say a person...
asthma, short-winded.
Right. It's a good question. He might have a problem. Let's say a guy doesn't have a pair of tefillin, he'll also have a problem.
Yeah, or say a person who doesn't have two arms. He doesn't have his
If
arms.
he doesn't have an arm, right, he'll have a problem.
What do you have a problem? Or just be excused from the mitzvah?
Maybe he'll be an onus. He will be excused. He will be what we call onus. Onus means ones. Oines. You need like a miracle to happen for him to be able to do that. So he's butter.
If you had a bare minimum of 10 people, a minyan, and each person blew the shofar once, 100 sounds would be heard. So if one of them was deaf, that wouldn't be possible. I don't know if that's significant.
No, so there's a bare minimum from the Torah that you need. Wouldn't it be 100? We do 100 just for all different authorities. Basically, much less. Maybe 30 would be the main obligation. Yes?
So Rabbeinu Tam says that there's a mitzvah to blow the shofar, yes?
Yes.
You say that the mitzvah is an obligation for every single person, or is it just a mitzvah to blow the shofar? So, for example, there's a mitzvah that only the Kohen Gadol can do. It's a mitzvah, only he can do it. There's not an obligation on everyone to do it. There's an obligation to blow the shofar. Maybe it's only one person has to blow the shofar. Not everybody has to blow the shofar. Because Rabbeinu Tam would not get this wrong. He was a very intelligent
So we have to understand Rabbeinu Tam. That will have to dedicate an entire shir to understand Rabbeinu Tam. You're right. Rabbeinu Tam, he didn't miss the boat. He was one of the greats of the great. He's a Rishon. He knew exactly what he's talking about, and we have to explain Rabbeinu Tam. We're going to have to explain where he's coming from and what's his view. Absolutely. Now, in terms of the Kohen Gadol, the question that he's asking is why we see sometimes that one person has the mitzvah. Kohen Gadol, he brings the incense to the insides of the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur, and not everyone else does it.
But there the Torah says that.
But there the Torah says that. Excellent.
Yeah.
The Torah says that Kohen Gadol should go, that's his mitzvah. He has a special mitzvah to go into the Lifnai V'Lifnim, the inner of the Holies Holies. So that's a special mitzvah for him. Just like we have a Kohen. A Kohen, special, he has certain mitzvahs that a Kohen has. Or different people have different, different categories of people. Everyone has a different mitzvah. Yes?
I would say that, how we say the words in between when they're blowing the shofar? So, that tefillah is participating in the blowing.
Interesting. That tefillah that we say in between, that should get us ready, and it should help us prepare.
But that also implies that listening is an active activity and not just a passive one.
Right.
Because you can't respond unless you hear that.
you've got to have kavanah while you're listening.
Right.
She's saying that you mustn't interrupt your kavanah, so listening becomes.
No, so we don't say the actual prayer while we blow. The actual mitzvah is the blowing. The prayer is just to prepare, to get our minds on what we're going to do. We're about to do a mitzvah, and there are certain prayers that we ask Hashem that He should accept our mitzvah, and it should be accepted like we did it with the
What about the person who calls out?
Yes.
And then blowing and teruah, and then they blow it.
You wonder how could he do
part
that?
of the whole event.
You want to know how it's not an interruption?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. How could the guy say, the makri, the one who calls out, how could he say tekiah, teruah? We know the rule is, you have to make a bracha right before the mitzvah, and then you're not allowed to talk out.
No, on Shabbos you can say pass the salt, you can
That's right.
It's related to the mitzvah.
And if it's part of the mitzvah, it's part of the bracha,
So,
like you could say pass the salt when
So
you
by
set
the
up
same
mitzvah.
token, we can say the prayers in between the different bunches of blocks.
Now, the prayers, that's different. That part is different because there, it's after you fulfill the base obligation.
Okay, so it's the first one that's really the base obligation, the first bunch.
You need that 30. When you get that 30, then you got it, you're underway. You're based in and you're grounded with the mitzvah. But we wouldn't say the prayers in the middle of those 30, in the middle of that mitzvah. Yes?
What about the last bracha? The one that says that Hashem's going to listen to Truah Samus Yisrael Barachamim. So we're saying a bracha that Hashem's going to hear our Truah. How do we know it's not a bracha ve-chatima?
So it depends what you have to see the words. It could be we're asking Hashem And we also have a,
you got to
we're
see.
making Baruch Atah Hashem, and we're saying he's going to listen to our...
yeah, so that is the idea. It's a mitzvah in the Torah that we should blow it, and we believe that Hashem will listen and with rachamim, and that's every year. He always accepts our tshuva. If we do it wholeheartedly, He will listen with compassion. That's for sure.
You said we have to see the words. When we got the Torah and it was handed over to us, it said that the children of Israel heard the sounds of the shofar, number one. Number two is we saw the sounds.
Right. Rowan as a there we saw the sounds. That's true.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm saying, is there any significance or linkage of the fact that there's a shofar, that this is a mitzvah, and the fact that we heard the shofar during the giving of the Torah?
There's not a direct linkage. It's an interesting. There's certain points that we have the shofar.
But that's the segue.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's go into a different question. One more proof here. Number 5. What we have to make sure about the acoustics. The mitzvah is to hear the shofar. Let's say there's an echo in the room, right? So, very good. Says the Mishnah number 5. Hatekeya l'seicha bar. Someone blows into a pit. Ay l'seicha dus. Ay l'seicha pidam. These are all cistern, different types of pits. The din is, im kol ha-shofar yot shama. If you heard the actual sound of the shofar, so then yotza, you fulfilled your obligation. You heard the shofar. Ve'im kol havara shama. But if you heard the sound of the echo of the shofar, then shama, that's what he heard. La yotza. He's not yotza. He does not fulfill his obligation. So if someone's, let's say, outside of the pit, and he's listening, and he hears now an echo, so of the shofar, he won't be yotza, because you have to hear the sound of the shofar.
So then, technically speaking, if you are not in eye-line sight of a person blowing the shofar, you're only going to hear an echo.
No. If it's in one room, you have a pretty good chance of getting the actual shofar.
Of microphones and things like that.
Oh, this would be a problem with microphones, because then you're not actually hearing the sound of the shofar. It would be like an echo. It's even worse than an echo, because here it's just reproduced. Right, so that would be a problem.
I agree, it might be okay if there's two distinct sounds, but most of what we hear on a day-to-day basis is the echo. I mean, you can't say what we hear here, because it's always bouncing off the walls as we talk. And it's so close by, you wouldn't hear the echo if it was an echo.
No, so you have to differentiate between... yeah, right?
That's not called an echo.
Right, that would be the actual sound. But once it starts going into the echo, that's already the... that's not yotza. So, but what do you see for this Mishnah? So that's the Mishnah. So the question from this Mishnah is that one could deduce, right, a big question back to our machlokas, our argument, Rabbeinu Tam and the Rambam. The question here is... What do you see from this Mishnah? Let's say he's blowing, and let's say he's blowing into the pit. So he's blowing straight into the pit, and he heard the sound of the echo. So what do you say? He's not yotze. The question is, let's go according to Rabbeinu Tam. Why is he yotze? He blew a shofar which had everything he needed. A tekiah, a shvar, a true, a tekiah. He did it beautiful. He did a tekiah gedolah. It was very long. So why is he not yotze?
The person blowing heard his own blow. He didn't.
Maybe he heard an echo.
Is Rabbeinu Tam just blowing, or is it blowing and hearing?
So his words are to blow. It seems that Rabbeinu Tam says the mitzvah is to blow the shofar, right? That's all. It's litkoa b'shofar.
So he would be Yotzei according to Rab Tam.
According to Rabbeinu Tam, he should be Yotzei because he blew it. He doesn't. I'll give you another case. This is the same sort of proof. Let's say he's deaf, or let's say he plugs up his ears. So the people, they always put like these things in their ears. They don't want to hear noise. I don't know why. So let's say they can't hear the shofar good. They don't hear the shofar good. They're blowing it, but his ears are stuffed up with something. Would he get the mitzvah? So the Mishnah here says that if he hears an echo, he's not yotzei. So this is a question. According to the Rabbeinu Tam, he should have been yotzei. Who cares if he can't hear it? He blew it beautifully.
So people with hearing aids, where some of the people have really bad hearing, the hearing aids just really magnifies. It's almost like what a microphone would do.
It is an echo.
Some hearing aids. Some hearing aids.
That would be a question we would have to ask the rabbi that. That's very interesting. Yes.
According to Rabbeinu Tam, if you had a shofar that was broken and no noise was able to come out, then you'd still be yotzi.
Well, the shofar would be kosher.
Well, assuming the shofar is kosher. But let's say it was...
There's like a problem with the shofar where no noise would come out, but you're blowing into it.
I don't know whether that's blowing it.
He's talking hypothetically.
It has to be a blow. It's not just to hold the shofar.
It has to make a sound.
Yeah. You have to blow it.
But
you take a shofar, blow.
And that means it's
right. It might be a good shofar, but the mitzvah is litkoa. You got to blow it. Good, beautiful. Okay, so this is a proof, and the same thing would be if he closed up his ears. According to Rabbeinu Tam, he would get a mitzvah. According to Rambam, he wouldn't get a mitzvah because you have to actually hear it.
You know, but if you blow and no sound comes out, let's just say you don't purse your lips, but
Yeah.
you're blowing through the shofar, you're not making a sound.
So you did not do it to Kia.
Okay,
So you would not get the mitzvah,
to
even
do it
according to Rabbeinu.
skillfully is the mitzvah.
Right. To
Okay.
blow, right, I don't mean just to blow.
So
It means to
he is
actually-
talking about a completely hypothetical situation where somebody who knows how to blow can't blow a kosher shofar.
Right, or his case is, well, it didn't come out a good actual sound, then he would not have been, he didn't do the mitzvah of blowing the shofar.
Now, what is the case if somebody blows, let's say, Tkiya or Tkiya Gedola, and the sound doesn't come out properly, or it's a very small Tkiya Gedola?
So it has a minimum, there's a minimum size. And if he doesn't get the minimum shear, right, then the rabbi is going to tell him, do that again.
Or he's
Yeah.
allowed to do it again?
Yeah, right, that's not a problem. And assuming you probably have someone very good doing it, then he doesn't have to go back. But if this, sometimes they get like a problem, then the rabbi has to say, go back.
What if he can't? What if he can't? Can you get somebody else? Can you get
And if he can't do that, so,
pinch shofar?
right, so it's interesting. They could switch in times of desperate need. Yeah.
Usually you choose a person who is strong enough to be able to blow
Yes.
it properly.
Right, for sure. Definitely. So now that we got this settled, now the question is, do we have to have ownership over the shofar? Do you have to own the shofar? Or are you allowed to have a stolen shofar? Right?
Definitely you can't.
A borrowed one?
Why can't you have a stolen shofar?
But a borrowed one as opposed to a lulav and etrog where it has to be in your ownership.
Oh, so here we have a beautiful idea. You're mechavan to the Yerushalmi. We're going to read the Yerushalmi inside. Beautiful. What's your name?
Ashley.
Ashley. Ashley has a beautiful question. It says that it has to be yours by a lulav, right? Everyone has to make sure to buy their own lulav on Sukkot. And we know that because the pasuk says, "Ulakachtem lochem bayom harishon." And I actually brought down the pasuk. I was scared that you would ask that question, so I brought it down on the bottom, number 7. There it says, "Ulakachtem lochem." You should take for you a lulav and an esrig on the first day of Sukkot, pre-8.
But isn't it with tefillin, if you don't have tefillin and there's a pair there, isn't it the same by lulav that you can take if somebody doesn't?
So now there is a certain idea, which Irving is bringing up a nice idea, that there's a difference between tefillin and you have to see each mitzvah by itself. Tefillin, if someone has, let's say it's tefillin, he leaves them lying here, he puts them away, he hides them every day. Now someone else comes along, he wants to use his tefillin. So there is an assumed assumed knowledge that a person would be happy that someone else uses tefillin. I'm happy.
A sefer as well.
A sefer also. If I have my sefer here, if Rabbi Ralph leaves a sefer and I come along and I want to use it, I'm allowed to pick it up and go through it as long as I don't damage it, and as long as he doesn't have any specific, what we call a hakbada, that he says I am adamant that no one use it. He would write in the front. It's not considered stealing.
So
It's
if
stealing.
you steal wheat and then you make bread into it and you make a bracha on it, that bracha is an
Right,
abomination.
right. If you steal wheat and you make bread, that's called an abomination to make a bracha over something stolen, because you're doing a mitzvah over something that's an abomination. So that's not right. We don't make a bracha, and not only that, it gets a phrase when you do a mitzvah based on an avera. That's called a mitzvah haba ba'avera. It's called a mitzvah based on an avera. Right? That's the idea. So we'll see it inside. The Gemara here speaks it out. It's called a mitzvah haba ba'avera. So now the question would be, could you use a stolen shofar for the shofar? Now, in reference to tefillin, so if the person lets, then you could use it. You don't need to have your own.
Maybe the shofar, maybe it's not stealing. It's like it's like
Now,
tefillin where
in tefillin, if he gives you permission, then it'll be okay. If the shofar, if he gives you permission, it'll be okay.
But stealing, isn't it his kavana to steal the thing that makes it stealing or not stealing?
Right, so if he wants to steal, right, he won't get a mitzvah tefillin because it will be a mitzvah above avera. Right, it's a mitzvah based on avera. You don't get credit for that such a mitzvah. Same thing with shofar. If it would have been stealing, so usually we say mitzvah above avera. You should not get any credit for it. The big question here is, if you look at the bottom of number 6, the Shulchan Aruch rules that you could use a stolen shofar. Look at the number 6, the little bays underneath the 5 lines down. It's in Shulchan Aruch Aruch Chaim Siman Tav Kuf Pei Vav. Ha-goizel shofar v'toka boy. Someone who steals a shofar and he blows it, yotza. He has fulfilled his obligation.
Wow.
Even if the owners, they didn't give up. They were so mad and angry, and they don't know who took it, and they say, I'm not giving up. Sometimes if you give up, so you could make it that it's sort of like whoever wants could take it. That would be huge. That's if you give up.
So does that prove that it's the mitzvah is to hear?
That is mind-blowing.
Doesn't matter.
Hold on to that.
How does that prove it?
But what you're talking about,
Hold on to that.
there's a difference between borrowing and stealing. Like you take that book and you use it, you're going to put it back when you're finished. But stealing infers you're going to keep it.
Oh, right. So let's say you steal any mitzvah, so it's not a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah b'aveira. Right. If I steal it with intent to steal it and go away and hide it, I won't get a mitzvah for that learning because it's a mitzvah based on an aveira, mitzvah b'aveira. So the question here is, how could the Shulchan Aruch, who we go like, we say, if someone steals it and blows it, he gets a mitzvah.
So logically, the shofar itself is not part of the mitzvah. It cannot be if it's...
Oh, you're deducing that.
I'm deducing that.
That's an interesting deduction. That's very nice. Yes.
Please, I don't understand why a pious Jew would steal a shofar.
He needed a mitzvah.
It's just a law, question of the law.
This is what it is.
Somebody did it.
I think it's a hypothetical.
Yeah.
That's different.
Yeah. No, he's really...
That's different.
Yeah, you always have to watch the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara, the Yetzer Tov, they want to do the mitzvah so badly, sometimes you never know. But we're talking
So
here...
you ask politely.
Right.
Don't go and steal it.
Absolutely. No, you're right. So you would have to say that, you're right, 100%. We don't steal shofars. This is right here. Don't lo signovu. It says in Parashas Kedoshim, don't steal. You're right. You're right. For sure. And you should ask politely. Absolutely.
But it looks like for the guy who blows shofar, he didn't do the mitzvah. Those who hear the mitzvah because they didn't know it was stolen.
But the Shulchan Aruch doesn't say that there's any difference. Look at the words of Shulchan Aruch. He doesn't make a difference about the one who blew it or the ones who listened.
But in Gemara,
everyone gets a mitzvah, right? Look
but
at
in Gemara, if somebody stole the cow which is destined for the temple, and he mikadesh the woman, and woman did not know that, and the guy didn't know it's really avera to steal it, kind of, is mikadesh.
Okay, right. So we'll have to go into those cases. That's interesting. We'll go into that. But the idea is, you're right. Of course, we don't say that you should steal it. But the question is, let's say his Yetzer Hara got the better of him because his Yetzer Tov was so strong. He wanted to do the mitzvah so badly, and then he got a little mixed up, and he stole it. You're right. It's not so common.
With the intention of keeping it as opposed to borrowing it.
Maybe he was, maybe he was drunk.
Right. Such a case. No, the case. You have to see different cases. But let's say if someone has in his house someone's items,
He might have.
you never know the cases. It could be different cases. If you think long enough, you could, let's say if you move into someone else's house and you have to return all the belongings. I one time got a big dresser when we moved here to Toronto, and it was filled with someone's, all his private things. He had all his, all his cards from insurance and everything. And, I had an obligation to return it. So let's say he would have a chauffeur in there, and I would say, okay, I'm not going to blow it. I'm not going to get around to it to returning it. I didn't get around. And let's say comes Rosh HaShana and I don't have a chauffeur, and I didn't return it. Let's say that might be a case. You have to think. You think long enough.
But that's not stealing.
But let's say I have in mind I'm not returning it. Let's say I say I don't want to return it.
Let's just say you're a
Let's say you say I don't want to return it. You have an obligation to return it. Hashavas Tavedo. You have to return a lost object. Let's say I say I didn't find it. I didn't take it. I'm not returning it. So that could turn into stealing if you don't do what you have to of returning it. If you have an object in your house which you have to return, it could turn into stealing.
Is there a time factor in returning something? I mean, you could have the best of intentions but forget it at critical times and end up not returning it for a long time.
Right.
Is that theft?
No, as long as his intention is you have to give it back. So this would be the question here. And we'd have to work out a good case. That's one possibility. So the question is, how could the Shulchan Aruch rule that you get your mitzvah even with the stolen shofar?
To argue against my previous point about it not being part of the mitzvah, if it wasn't part of the mitzvah, you wouldn't need a kosher shofar.
That's an interesting idea.
And also the echo that the shofar itself produces would not be kosher because the actual nature of the sound, the amplification, is also an echo. So that is another argument against
but the amplification of the actual sound by the shofar, that's not a problem. The problem is
Exactly.
when once it starts
That's why I'm saying it's part of the
bouncing out.
mitzvah.
Once it starts, right, the actual sound that comes out is okay. Once it starts bouncing and make an echo back, an echo would be a problem. So let's go into this idea. How could you get a mitzvah of taking a shofar? We have two questions here. Yes?
I'm going to try
Yeah.
to say that it proves that it's the listening rather than blowing. Because, well, I mean, no one in the room actually owns the shofar that they're listening to. And they all benefit from, if the mitzvah is to listen. And the person who blows it is also listening to it. And so he gets
it's
the
not
mitzvah of
stolen.
listening to the
But
shofar.
everyone's shofar on Rosh HaShana, although you don't own that shofar, but it's not stolen. There, it has been procured by the rabbi through kosher legal means. So therefore, it's borrowed, or he gives everyone permission to use it.
So even the person who stole it and is blowing it, I mean, if his benefit, the mitzvah, is listening to it, I guess I'm just trying to suggest it doesn't seem like that's how it would be permissible, because you're benefiting only from the sound, not from the ability.
Well, that's
to blow.
got to be it. That's got to be it.
that
Because
sounds
it has
like
nothing
it
to
is.
do with the shofar. It has to do with the sound.
Oh, okay.
Sound only comes from the shofar. You can't separate it.
Oh.
Well, but that's what that is
But
doing.
these
Maybe
trying to
just the guy
separate them.
needs the mitzvah desperately because Rosh Hashanah is upon them, and he's clearly has to sin even on
But
Rosh Hashanah.
this
No,
already,
there's lulav and esrog though.
if that's true, then this already presupposes that listening is the mitzvah.
Oh, so here's
Yeah,
the answer. So what you're answering here, you just jumped the gun, and this we're gonna read it inside and see how to bring out this answer beautifully. Very nice, beautiful. You got the jackpot. Let's see it inside and develop this answer based on what we're saying from the Rambam. So I'll just show you how the Yerushalmi asked. The Yerushalmi, first we had the question here. You asked the question, the Yerushalmi, right? The question was, we know on Sukkot you need to have ownership of the lulav on the first day. L'kachtem lachem, we said, b'yom harishon. It said you shall take for you, has to be your own lulav. And it can't even be borrowed. This lachem, this says that you can't even borrow lulav. You have to make sure that you acquire the lulav, and if you don't have your own, at least you have to tell your friend, make a kinyan, and I want to acquire it, and I will give it to you back with a kinyan, but it should be mine. That's what we have to do on the first day of Sukkot, which is why we can't give it to a child on the first day with the kinyan, because he can't give it back. It has to be yours on the first day. So the question here we had before was, well, the same way it says lachem on Sukkot for the lulav, why don't we say the same thing for a shofar? What's the pasuk of shofar? Back to the top. Pasuk says, Yom Teruah Yiyeh Lochem. It says lochem there. It says it should be for you a Yom Teruah. So why don't we say the same idea? Lochem, it should be your shofar. You have to own it, and you can't even borrow it. You should need ownership of the shofar. That's the question.
Shofar says true.
You should have to own the truah.
So
Very good. So Vax is again
he's just Sony music with that.
jumping in. Yeah.
I'm a little bit older, and what I remember, in the diaspora, not everybody could afford a shofar.
Right. Yes, very good. Very good.
That was maybe the reason why you had one person who was designated with the shofar to blow the shofar.
It's true. Right. That's true. Now the question is, does he need to own it? It says Yom Teruah Yiyeh Lochem.
Well,
L'kachtem lochem b'yom harishon pri
I don't know. Maybe the shul or the gehilla owned the shofar. And he was one.
Oh, very good. Very good. So let's see if you actually need ownership. So look on number 7. I want to show you a beautiful Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi actually asks this question. We'll just skip down to the Gemara on number 7. Let's 6 lines down. Tani Rebbe Chia. Rebbe Chia said, Olakachtem lochem. We say on Sukkot, Olakachtem lochem, you have to take your own esrig. Mishel lochem, it has to be from yours. And then it goes on to one little point, and then the Gemara asks, Ma bein shofar, Ma bein lulav. What's the difference between a shofar and a lulav? A lulav has to be yours. Why doesn't a shofar have to be yours? It also says, Yom Teruah Yiyeh lochem. And that the Yerushalmi says, Amr Reb Yaisa, Be'lulav ksiv lakachtem lachem mishal lachem, loy mishal iser hana. You're right. By lulav it says lakachtem lachem. You should take your own, and you shouldn't take one that is not yours or one that you're not allowed to have benefit from. Be'ram, however, hacha yom teruah yiyeh lachem mikol makom. He says, Yom Teruah Yeh Lachem, it should be a day of blowing for you. Mikol Makom, in any event. Now the question, what does that mean in any event? And just look one line further. Amr Blazer, Taman Begufa Hu Yotzei. Over there by a lulav, you take the guf, you take the body of the lulav. The mitzvah is to take the lulav. But over here, Hacha, Bekoiloi Hu Yotzei. You get a coil. The coil is the mitzvah. V'yesh kol iser b'hana. Is there such a thing as taking a coil? Could you steal someone's sound? There's no such thing as stealing a sound. So the Yerushalmi says what you're saying here. A sound, that's the mitzvah. And the Yerushalmi is saying, Yom Teruah Yeh Lachem means it's a day of Teruah. If you notice, it doesn't say anything about the shofar. It says the Teruah, right, like we spoke out. It's the sound. It's the day of the sound will be for you. You have to have the sound. You have to get the sound. You have to hear it. The Rambam says you have to listen and get the sound, capture that sound, and then it'll be your sound. Yom Teruah Yeh Lachem. It doesn't say Yom Teruas Shofar Yeh Lachem. It doesn't speak about the shofar. The shofar doesn't have to be yours. But the Teruah, the sound has to be yours. Because that's the mitzvah, to take the sound. But by lulav, the mitzvah is to take the lulav. So the lulav has to be yours.
So what does it mean? Sorry.
I was going to say, this first Shavuos, then Hashem blew the shofar.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Because there was no one blowing it, but everybody got the mitzvah because they heard the Har Sinai.
Right.
Shofar. So it's just sound.
Well, the question is,
right? There was no shofar there. There was not even a shofar there.
It would have presupposed and it does say there was a shofar.
It would have presupposed a mouth.
Does that mean that the act of hearing it makes it yours?
That's why we have angels to explain.
Your hearing, it's your hearing.
Because like you're talking right now, but we're all hearing it at the same time. So those words are each of ours now?
Yes. Well, it means that it's your sound. You're taking the sound in, and when you take the sound in, that's your mitzvah. That's your hearing. It doesn't say your shofar in the mitzvah. Right? By Yovel, right, we said on the bottom, it says over there, Vavarta shofar trua. By Yovel, it says the shofar. It speaks about shofar there. Why here doesn't it say shofar? It says Yom Teruah Yelchem. It doesn't say anything about the shofar. Says the later authorities that's what we're saying here. That's the idea. That the mitzvah is to hear the sound, and that answers up the question that we asked before. How could you get your mitzvah with a stolen shofar, right? However you get the case, we don't recommend it. You should never do it. You should ask politely. But if you happen to have a stolen shofar in your house, you get the mitzvah by listening to a stolen shofar. Why? Because the only problem is to use a stolen object when the object is the mitzvah. To steal a lulav, you can't be yotzer. That's a stolen lulav, right? It's a mitzvah b'aveira, and it also says it has to be yours. But by shofar, you stole the shofar. But the shofar is not the mitzvah. The sound is the mitzvah. The shofar, you did an aveira. But the sound that comes out of it, that's removed. On that, it's not a problem. That's not mitzvah b'aveira. Mitzvah b'aveira is the actual object is a mitzvah which has an aveira built on it. So there you don't see. You don't get the mitzvah.
Why are we worried about a kosher shofar then?
So who's
the sound won't be.
So we don't require that you have your own shofar. You could even have a stolen shofar.
The sound won't be
as opposed to what? If it has a crack in it?
Yeah, or
a trumpet.
No, but you have to have the right sound. The Torah says we learn out. Very good. The Gemara Rosh HaShana learns out right at the end of Naf Lamed Gimel. We learn out from Yovel that Yovel it says shofar trua. So the Gemara learns out Gzeira Shava. Here it says Teruah, there it says Trua, I believe, and therefore when the Gemara learns out, it has to be a shofar. And we learn out all the different rules. We go back and forth from Yovel to Rosh Hashanah. It needs a tekiah, it needs a Trua. We learn that all out. Beautiful. You're right. That's the answer, because Trua has to be with the shofar from Yovel. But that's the answer. That's why it could even be stolen, because even if it's stolen, but I didn't steal the coal. The mitzvah is to take the object. The object of shofar is the sound. That's not stolen. You can't steal. The Gemara says in Yerushalmi, could you steal a sound? Even if you walk by the Beis HaMikdash and you hear a beautiful sound, or you smell the ketoras, which smell beautifully, there is no issur. There's something called, you're not allowed to benefit from hekdesh. You can't go over to hekdesh and use its property, because that's called me'ilah. That's called using consecrated property. That's usur. That's me'ilah. But you're allowed to smell something in hekdesh, and you're allowed to hear a nice sound from hekdesh, because there's no such a thing as stealing.
Well, you're not causing a decrease in it by listening to it.
That's one idea, and there's no stealing. And you're not stealing by stealing a sound. You cannot steal a sound. And therefore, same thing here. Even if the shofar is stolen, but the sound is not stolen. Right?
What is I understood that, and going back to the Yerushalmi, I understood that the Yerushalmi have two answers to the question.
So Rabbi Zalman Meltzer says that they're both one answer. Rabbi Zalman says...
Obviously there are two different answers. I will read it. The question is Ma ben Shofar or Ma ben Lulav. This is the question. And then you have Rabbi Yossi, Amar Rabbi Yossi, and Amar Rabbi Eliezer. First, when the Gemara said Amar Rabbi, so it's two different verses. The second is, this is, Rabbi Yossi is referring to the Pasuk. He's saying, Lachem Mishelachem, and he's saying, Yom Torah Yeh Lachem. So the word Yihyeh is bringing you that anyway it's supposed to be, it can be either yours, either not yours. But
that's one way to look at it.
Rabbi Eliezer does not even need the pasuk. Rabbi Eliezer even Svara, he said it's never mine. This is a call. The call, you don't need to have no ownership on the call, on the voice.
But that's only, it's true. It's a nice way to learn up the Yerushalmi.
And then I have another...
One at a time, one at a time.
It's from the Ravid. When the Ravid quoting and is disagree with the Rambam, he's not quoting Rabbi Eliezer.
It's true.
He's quoting Rabbi Yossi. And Rambam is quoting Rabbi Eliezer. So which means that there is two answers.
Right. It is true. That is one way to look at the Yerushalmi. But the other way is that they're not arguing. And the two views of the Yerushalmi are actually going together with each other. And each one is explaining, how did the second view know to say that the mitzvah is with the koil? Who told Rabbi Eliezer that the mitzvah is with the koil, with the sound? Maybe the mitzvah is with the shofar,
but it's
the actual shofar. The answer is the first view. The first view of Rabbi Yossi says, L'kachtem lachem, we say lachem by the lulav, but here it says Yom Teruah yeh lachem. He learns up the pasuk. The pasuk is telling me that it's a day of Teruah will be to you. It doesn't say Teruah of a shofar will be to you. That's how he learns up. He doesn't learn the way you learned, that we're learning out from the extra word yeh. He learns from the word Yom Teruah yeh lachem. It will be a day of Teruah for you, a sound.
Are you making the sound, or sorry, are you making a day of sound?
No, it's the day.
Is the mitzvah relating to the day?
It's the day of sound. This day is the day of the sound. This is the idea.
So how you can explain Rambam and the Ravid? They disagree.
Now, right now, the Ravid learned differently.
According to the Rabbi Eliezer Zalman Meltzer.
So this is what he says. One second. So let's just wrap it up, and then we'll go into it. So that's the idea here. So the mitzvah is to listen. Everyone should make sure to listen. And the chinuch explains, when you listen, it goes in and it wakes a person up, and it arouses a person's heart to do the right teshuvah, to repentance, and to come closer to actually try to fulfill what he's supposed to, and try it for a good year, try to commitment, renew our commitment of accepting the yoke of heaven. And this is the secret of shofar, the secret of every mitzvah. You learn about a mitzvah, you get into it, it's a different shofar. It's going to be a different mitzvah. We should all merit to have a beautiful new year filled with listening and going closer.